Hey there. Hope all is well. Want to share an article with you. Just came across, and I thought it was something that's very timely as we are approaching the end of 2019, heading into 2020. So over the last couple of live streams, I've commented on negative interest rates and the need for banks to begin shifting some of the responsibility or some of the liabilities of negative interest rates onto their smaller depositors rather. So I have an article here that I just came across from Yahoo, or a post from Bloomberg, but I got it off Yahoo. And it has to do with Commerzbank, one of Germany's, I think it's third largest bank in Germany, trying to figure out how to shift the burden onto smaller account holders. And so, of course, for some time now, larger institutions have been taking somewhat of a hit on their holdings. And so it looks like they're just working their way right on down, and eventually it's going to reach its way to the smaller depositors there. And so according to this article here, I'll link it down below, negative interest rates really impacting Europe heavily. Therefore, there's a lot of movements out there, people trying to find ways of avoiding those losses. And so one thing that really got me to thinking about the whole concept of negative interest rates. And so we're less than 2 points away from zero, nevertheless negative. And me hearing more Fed people talking about negative interest rates here in the U.S. And once again, it's impossible, or it's not ideal to have a reserve currency in a territory where it itself takes borrowing costs to negative territory, benefiting the debtors over the creditors, as far as those that actually use the currency and things of that nature and look to park their currency in vehicles that's supposed to earn the yield. But as we can tell from what's going on now, parking funds in a long-term vehicle of some kind is proven to be quite risky. So according to this article here, I'll basically sum it up for you. It looks like they're breaking it into tiers as to how they're going to try to pass on some of their losses to those that have entrusted them with the responsibility of holding their cash or making a return on that cash, which is no longer existent in Europe. And so it's something that we can learn from in the U.S. because we might have some time, we might not sure. 2020 would definitely be a year where we're going to find out how much time we actually do have. But if you thumb through the article, you hear all types of quotes that really paint a very dire picture for the European area. And so this will definitely impact the euro and people's confidence in holding euros, because passing on negative rates to depositors is intended to spur on inflation, to get people to go spend. And so one of the things I really began thinking about is a part of this monetary experiment, which is coming apart at the seams. It gives people a chance to really begin taking interest in their own personal affairs by beginning, for the most part, doing things differently. And so I look at it as there's two different ways to approach this. There's two different ways to think nowadays, especially. You got inside the box and you got outside the box. Just primarily sum it up in a nutshell. Thinking inside the box is to continue to do what you've already been doing in an environment where the institutions themselves, the central banks themselves, they're already now trying to figure out how to keep this thing going. So they're going outside the box, looking for so-called solutions to the very problems that they help create. But yet you have Main Street economy, your average person, your everyday person that's just working hard, doing what they were told to do, still inside the box. So they're inside the box in an environment, especially in Europe, where they're already in negative. Therefore, that means if you are a high net worth individual, you've already been taking some losses. And if you're not a high net worth individual, if you're just a person with $100 in your account, eventually it's coming to you, as I mentioned. So read through the article, you'll hear about the tiers that they're looking to slowly but surely pass on the burden to depositors. And keep this in mind, most people don't realize the historical aspects of banking. Banking, according to how it was initially formulated, was basically people taking their metals down to a coin shop, a coinsmith, and that person holding your coins in a secure manner for you and basically being your security for your money. Over time, once again, a great business model is that most people don't come to get their money, so we can rehypothecate it and give out certificates and IOUs, i.e. currency notes and things of that nature, and we can make a profit off of this. So if people really knew that was the banking model in general, the banking was never designed to make you rich or help you prosper. Nevertheless, the economic conditions we're currently in, then you might be able to say, okay, two ways of thinking, inside the box, outside the box. If you're a follower of alternative media, you're probably one of the outside the box thinkers. But then it doesn't stop there, because once again, thinking outside the box, it can leave you wondering, like, okay, what do I do? What's next? And of course, I can't give, financial advice. That's not me. I don't even want to give you financial advice. I only enjoy sharing my opinions on ideals, but I don't mind sharing, some things that I tend to think about, because once again, I'm always going. And so just thinking outside the box, there's ways of basically looking at interest rates and them going negative is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, it's bad if you park your funds in somebody else's possession and you intend on them giving you a return on it, then of course it's bad. But yet we're past the point of, or not fully, but we can't be unless you know what you're doing. We're past the point of actually being able to park things and anticipating it growing naturally, because everything now is artificially done. So therefore, parking things poses to be a risk to the holders of those things or the issuers of those things, because once again, once you give something over, you're signing over responsibility and temporary ownership, which means that could not technically not really be yours if you kind of looked at it from that standpoint. But one thing I wanted to hit on is the fact that negative interest rates, thinking outside the box, it's bad in and of itself, but it doesn't have to be bad completely. And so there's all types of ways. And, guy, I tell you about, getting your weight up, and, this is a great time for people to become more innovative. And so thinking outside the box, it requires innovation. How can you take the conditions that you're being dealt and turn them into something positive, or a little bit more positive, to where you're not taking the losses solely? And so that's why I always encourage people to just look for opportunities, look for things that is already outside the box, and investigate it for yourself. Don't be stuck inside the box thinking everything is fine in a time where it's not. And so it's one of the things where two ways of thinking, inside and outside. Hopefully by now you're realizing that things are already changing. And so there's no such thing as security anymore. There's no such things as financial security, job security, retirement security. If you're dependent on anything that to be given to you, or you're more than likely, you're rightfully owed a lot of things because of all those promises, that's in the box thinking. And once again, in the box thinking, if we look at it from a global standpoint, there's billions, if not millions for sure, of people that have been subjected to broken promises. And so like I mentioned on last night's live stream about one of the things I'm concerned about is all contracts now are at risk, because contracts between two individuals stands to be broken or alleviated or restructured. There's going to be somebody on one end of the party that can't live up to their obligation. And unfortunately, it's going to be the person who knew or had no clue it was coming and was dependent upon somebody else taking responsibility for themselves. But without ranting further, Commerzbank is looking to pass on interest rates, and that's just, we know Deutsche Bank is, we know Commerzbank, and there's a couple other banks that don't come to mind, but this is an article I came across today that was fresh, so I thought I would share it with you. And it's, once again, two ways of thinking, inside, outside. Where are you at? That's up to you, because you are responsible for your financial future, no one else. And so be open to opportunities and ideas. And so as always, I've always mentioned, everything I come across, I share it because it's more than likely what I do. And so if it's what I do, I try to be an outside-the-box thinker myself. That being the case, one thing I wanted to definitely shine light on is the fact that in Germany, which is interesting, there's the company called Carrot Bars, and so it's one of them out-of-the-box thinking opportunities for people to spend their currency and get something back that will appreciate in time. And so just got a little fresh shipment in, and so the Carrot Bar cash gold notes, and so right here, a couple grams of gold that I use currency to buy gold. And it's one of the things where thinking outside the box, becoming your own banker, being your own bank is one thing that most people are not used to hearing, but it's one of the things that you're going to be introduced to whether you want to or not. And so I think it's always better to initiate change for yourself as opposed to waiting for others to initiate it for yourself. So once again, check the article out for yourself, for you. But remember, while you're probably not being active, there's a lot of people being proactive on your behalf, and it's not going to benefit you. So with that being the case, I'll put the article down below, as well as if you guys want to find out more about the cash gold notes, I encourage you, take advantage of it, opportunity outside the box if you're interested. If not, stay in the box, do what you do. It's all fine and good. Other than that, get your weight up. The Rethinking the Dollar coin is still available, so there's more than enough opportunities for you to take matters into your own hands. But once again, it's up to you. So I'm going to stop ranting, shut my mouth. Give a thumbs up if you find this informative. Share this information, or worst case scenario, share the article, because people, once again, when they read it from a credible source, such as Bloomberg or Yahoo News, they'll probably take it a little bit more serious. And then you got to ask them a question. What's the chance that comes to the U.S.? And then hopefully they'll be realistic enough to say, okay, it could happen. So let me think outside the box and do something a little bit different. So once again, just my opinion. Do what you got to do. Other than that, look forward to bringing more news and updates. Enjoy the rest of your day.